Thinking that the listeners saying to themselves, okay, engagement, I heard it's important. How do I, get that first step there? What do you think?
Yeah, whether you are just starting out or you've been doing this for a while and you have yet to actually hear from your audience, so much depends on that first piece of engagement, because you can use that for other ways to get more engagement later. But how you get that first piece of engagement, what you really have to focus on first, and we're going to come back to this point probably multiple times in this discussion, is you have to make sure you are delivering good value first. Make sure you're delivering on whatever the promise is of your podcast, whatever it is that people are coming to your podcast for. Make sure you deliver that episode after episode and as early as possible in your episodes before you ask for anything in return. Now, the ask is where the engagement can start. Don't just ask questions like, what did you think of this episode? Because a common response people might have is, it was okay. Or, yeah, I liked it. That's not really engaging. You need to ask them a specific question that is also open enough that it inspires them to respond in some way. So some different examples could be like here with Grow Your Show. You're talking to podcasters, helping them grow their shows. One of the questions you can probably ask, and you probably have asked this, is what is one technique you have used that you've seen make the biggest result in the growth of your show? And if someone asked me that, I could give some crazy off-the-wall answer of something ridiculous that I did once that actually worked to literally overnight, septuple my audience downloads and subscriptions. We can talk about that separately, but that's the kind of thing you want to ask your audience for, something specific that they can give a response, an answer, a tip, some experience that they have. Focus on that and how it relates to your content, especially if you can use that for an upcoming episode. So you see other podcasters do this frequently where they might have a theme show or a question of the month or something like that, where they give themselves enough time in advance, especially if you have a small audience, you need more time to collect some feedback. But ask in advance, I'm doing an episode upcoming about this, and I would love to have your voice included or your perspective included. So please let me know. And then you ask the question or you tell them what you want. Or maybe it is you're going to do an episode specifically to answer their question. So you ask them, what question would you like me to answer for you in an upcoming episode of my podcast? And you can be specific about that. You can say like, what question would you like me to answer about advertising on Facebook and Instagram? Or what question would you like me to answer about crazy noises you hear coming from your car or anything like that? So you're giving them some ideas of where to start with that first question. And along with that, whatever method you use for collecting feedback, I have a tool that I've created that does that. There are plenty of tools out there to help you collect the feedback. Whatever it is that you're using, make it as dead simple as possible for your audience. Don't make it complicated. Make it memorable, make it simple, make it branded to your podcast, not to some other service out there.
Yeah. Love it. And by the way, to the listener, Daniel J. Lewis is the host of a very popular podcast within the podcasting space. He helps people like you and me. It's called the Audacity to Podcast show. So anyway, Daniel, I got an incredible amount of notes on this. I'm going to throw it back at the listener to make sure that they got enough to write notes on. So Daniel's talking about how you can get your first engagement on your podcast. And there are many, many ways to get engagement on a show. But I heard him say some things that are incredibly valuable and different from what you may have thought before. One of those things is, first and foremost, make sure that you are delivering actual value. And he said it in these words, delivering on your promise on your show. So whatever value you say you're giving to your listener, Make sure you're doing that before you ever ask for anything. And now he gives some tips. And he says, for example, you could ask, hey, what is one technique that you have used to fill in the blank? Fill in the blank. What is one technique that you've used to do this? Whatever your podcast is about. Ask your audience a tip. And I'm thinking through this in the psychology of asking your audience for a tip or a suggestion. And ding, 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 what's really cool is human psychology makes it very challenging for us not to offer feedback. So if you're asked by me or by Daniel, or if you ask your audience, your listener, hey, can you give me a tip? What's a cool thing you've done within my genre? They're more likely to give you that tip versus some of the other examples that Daniel gave that people are less likely. He also mentioned having a theme show or a question of the month. And he worded it this way: I would love to have your voice or your insight included in the show.